Innovator series. My name is Joseph Martens. I'm your host and the founder of the Tech Executive Club. With us today is David LaRue. David is the founder of IQ for Hire, a firm that combines strategy and execution to create and grow business with enduring value. Before that, he's been the CIO, CTO, and head of enterprise architecture at various companies in different industries. But that's not just it. He is not just a tech leader, but one of the special parts in his background is that he was also responsible for digital strategy. And that makes him a really unique combination of skills and backgrounds. David, it's a pleasure to have you with us today.
And same, very much a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Let's dive right into the topic of leadership. Super accomplished career, David, absolutely awesome. When you reflect on that career, what do you think are some of the ingredients for success? What are some of the reasons that got you to the point where you are?
Well, I think part of it is just looking at, your customer and understanding what kind of struggles they're having and ways that you can help alleviate that. And sometimes that's through a process. It might be through digital. Mm-hmm. And that started early in my career. So that actually, my first job out of college, there was an opportunity to bring information together for the automobile dealerships. And that then kind of was the building block of my career. I went from sales and marketing right into a technology side. And so that was interesting. It was very, very interesting. And I learned some early lessons about how to influence the organization, how to align myself, and then make an impact. It was fun. It was a blast.
So focus on business, right? That's not easy for a lot of tech leaders or tech executives, right? Because many of the tech leaders enjoy the technical challenge. They like to be really deep in the weeds of technology. How does that transition work? Tell me a bit about the transition from the focus on.
So interestingly enough, I was as part of that journey, and I was started out at Ford Motor Company. They put me through a rotational program through sales, marketing, finance twice, technology. And so, their objective is to try to get you as well-rounded as possible, even though I have an engineering and business background, because they're looking for the right place to put you so you can continue to thrive within the company. And it's up to you really to figure out where you're going to go. But you get exposed to all these different opportunities, how the business is run. I got an opportunity to do business plans. So right off the bat, I was kind of thrown into the opportunities, and I didn't have to execute everything myself.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Ford Motor Company is a big company, and what they want is thought leadership and leadership to bring forth a product. And so I was helping to actually do products. Mm-hmm. So you can't do everything yourself. And so you learn that early on, and then you have to surround yourself with people that are going to be, they're going to help make that vision come true. Even though we had really, really small teams, I think small teams with a lot of vigorous, like, hey, let's go make this better. That, and not being afraid of saying, well, this might not work out exactly like we need to do it. We might have to do something different. So, for example, on an automotive diagnostic system we built, we got up to level 8 and started to version 8 and started to demonstrate it. Not so much. It took us to I think 13 before we could actually get it out.
Whoa. Okay.
Out into the into the dealerships. But it was a smashing success. But we had to go through pilot programs. We had to learn all this. And what did we learn? We learned that even though people were in particular lanes, management was nice enough or thoughtful enough to say, well, this guy's pretty good at selling things also. Mm-hmm. So I got an opportunity to run around and start pitching what I sold, what I built, right? And that was an interesting opportunity because your voice gets heard farther and farther, and I kind of like that. So I think that's what happens, is that you learn a little bit, you like certain things, and then you have an opportunity to continue to do things that you like.
Yeah, that sounds like a fabulous experience, right? Being in that situation where you have to sell the technology that you're building. And also the rotational program, that also sounds fascinating. And I'm thinking, great experience, right? Fantastic opportunity. let's say you're in an organization that doesn't have such a rotation program and that may not be large enough, not have the resources like a Ford Motor Company.
Right.
How would a tech executive be able to create something like that on a different scale?
So what I have done is I've taken the mentor model. So
Okay.
I had really good mentors when I was growing up outside of outside of my industry stuff. It was basically personal mentors, and their advice was, don't be afraid to use the open door policy to get to know people that can help your career.
Okay.
Right. And I think that's part of the thing is you have to actually be in control of your career and have the mental fortitude to say, yeah, I'm going to go try that. I'm going to go talk to this person. I'm going to express my vision to some people and try to get them to buy into it. Right. The other thing is some of the organizations, and recently one of the last organizations I was with, we actually built a mentorship program. I built a membership program, a mentorship, and participated with one at True Value.
Okay.
And then at DeVry, we actually had, these rotating programs, and at Serva, it's the same thing. We had this Serva leadership program. And so I was in that position in the past, maybe not as formally, but I think organizations learn that they need to have, the next people up. They got to have a bench. They've got to have kind of the minor leagues to get, understand whether these people are going to be successful. And my recommendation is try to get yourself into one of those things, get in early, and also go through some sort of a rotation to get you exposure to someplace other than where you're domiciled at within the company.
Yep.
Get on a committee, do something.
Interesting. So, right, look for the broader horizon right away, right? I love the mentoring idea, looking for other opportunities to engage in the company. Let's talk about your mentors for a moment, just to see what role they played on your journey. Tell me about some of the advice that you got from your mentors, maybe even some advice where initially you thought this doesn't make sense, or what is he or she talking about? And something that you had to wrestle with a little bit at first, and later you realized there was more wisdom in that than I thought at the time.
So two of my mentors were lawyers. Okay, different types of lawyers.
Okay.
Actually, one went through dental school, business school, decided he didn't want to be a dentist, and went on to go do what he wanted to do, which was in tax, right? And he early on said to me, you got to get on this technology bandwagon. It's going to go really fast, and it's going to be interesting. But I'm like, well, I'm running down this other road, and it has nothing to do with technology at the time. And he goes, well, it's a curiosity factor. And I think there's some good advice where it says, I think a lot of people go after your passion. It's like, well, sometimes that's really, you're kind of combining the things you like to do after work with the things you want to do at work. Does that make sense? And then the other thing is he says, be good at what you do. Whatever that thing is that you carve out, spend the time early in your career to get better than everybody else. Spend the 40, 60 hours a week or plus, work the weekends, do whatever you got to do to make sure that you learn your trade and you do very well at it. Doesn't mean you have to be super, super focused on one thing. It just means you need to be good at what you do.
It sounds like great advice, right? Accomplish mastery pretty quickly so that you can probably accelerate faster, have more backwind for the rest of your career.
Correct.
Yeah. So this is part of the past in your leadership journey. Let's take a look at today. Let's take a look at where you are right now. And again, this is about leadership, not about companies, positions, or anything like that, right?
Sure.
So when you look at where you are right now, what are some of the things where you get the sense, I haven't cracked it yet? Where you feel like this is part of what a leader does, and no doubt you have some skills, you're doing well, no question, right? But where you feel like, I wish I could do this differently. I wish I could be even better at that.
Oh, absolutely. I think as I've gone through the journey of sort of self-awareness and then awareness of how I work and interact with others. And then at some point in time, you have to start thinking about what kind of leader's legacy you're going to leave, right? And that comes along and you're like, well, what could I do? What could I do better? And I do have mentors that I work with, mentees, but I feel like I could have more. There's more formal interactions I could have with these folks. And I think I could use another mentor in my life now that I'm in a little bit different position, but it would come from a different place, right? So if I had my druthers, I'd love to have a mentor in the VC community and understand that, much better, to kind of understand how I could contribute in that area. I do, some technical evaluations of companies and those kind of things, but I would certainly enjoy the opportunity to understand more about how some of the financial markets and those things work.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of opportunities still in front of me. I probably need to take my own advice and start reaching out to some of the folks that I know in that area.
Yeah, but I love this concept of being really intentional about who the mentors should be, and then seeing that we can win them over. How do you go about that? Let's say, clear plan, right? I want a mentor in the VC space.
Yep.
Would you just connect with someone who happens to be in your network, or what's the approach there? How do you find the ideal mentor for that? Would you reach beyond your network immediately? Talk a bit about that.
Well, I would think that I would reach beyond, but I would probably engage, the advice of some of the folks that I hold close that are VCs that I don't have a working relationship with. I used to, right? So I would take their advice, maybe combined with some others, and help, formulate some kind of a plan moving forward. And that sounds like what I got to go put on my agenda to go do. Now it sounds like a to-do list. So I got
Didn't want to put any pressure on you on that. Not going to ask you about deadlines. Awesome. Great. So that's today. And now let's take a crystal ball and look into the future. Again, your future in leadership. Not about positions, not about companies, but when you look at David in his next evolution, his next step up the ladder, what's different then? Describe David for me as I would meet him in 5 years or in 10 years or whenever that next step.
So I think there's two parts to that. There's sort of my personal journey as far as executive, and then there's my journey in volunteerism and helping organizations. I have been doing that in the past, but now that I'm down in Atlanta, I haven't engaged as much as I'd like to in that area. So I think there's two things, because the organizations I was involved with in Chicago help, individuals that are on that technology journey, but they're young early on and sometimes don't know exactly what they want to do. I think there's the same opportunity here in Atlanta. There's a tremendous opportunity, pent-up demand for doing that. So I've actually been out talking to some of the influencers, senior influencers here, to see where I could help in that. And so I started to get involved in some of the innovation, groups, and I just got to do a little bit more focus on that. I think you're going to see two tracks. One is me personally trying to grow as a leader and learn and do a better job of leading. Get a balance of sort of a servant leadership with a directed approach, and the same thing on the. I think as I look in 10 years, I'd probably be more focused on my secondary life, which would be probably continuing on. I can't see myself stopping or slowing down. I'll have to do it more in a space that not necessarily is my main income stream.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you. You mentioned innovation in the Atlanta region. I saw that you are a certified professional innovator, and that title grabbed my attention right away, because I really think innovation is one of the keys to the future, if maybe the key to the future. Tell me, what do you see as the main challenges, or what are the main derailers in innovation efforts in companies?
So I have, sort of this opinion or a thought process, being in small companies, startups, large companies. I was fortunate, like I said, in Ford Motor Company, that we were almost a completely separate division. We were not centrally funded, so I had to go out tin cup to get money, which gave us a bit of room to maneuver and get successful. You can't get to version 14 and launch, or 13 or 14 or whatever it was, if somebody's saying you have to launch this next quarter, right? No matter what. So I think, what I call the white blood cells of an organization go after innovation. And so you have to have a way to block that and allow that organization to grow, because they're not going to have the revenue, they're not going to have the metrics, they're not going to be able to be as mature as the rest of the organization. So I think there has to be some sort of an incubator type arrangement. So that's important. I think it also is important that somebody has a vision to what this is, right? So there's usually a individual or a couple of individuals that have a vision, and then you have to put a team around it that is, in a lot of ways, challenging to those individuals. So you can't have a bunch of people just saying, "Yeah, that's great, that's great." You actually have to have a variety of different thought processes, disciplines together working in order to drive innovation. And I've been fortunate enough to get multiple awards for innovation and those types of things. And the innovation class and certification I got at University of Michigan is very well known. It's got some very famous people go through it, and some products that we're all familiar with using all come through that organization. What it does is sort of, it puts a framework around the thought process and execution of innovation, which is good. I think it needs that.
It needs to be that process, right? It needs to be a process as opposed to the hope for an idea. That's
correct.
Never
Set
enough.
yourself up for success.
Yeah. Let me ask you one more question, David, and then we're going to land the plane here. In your whole journey as a leader, what have you discovered there? What is maybe an insight that you had or an aha moment that is really clear to you? You've discovered it, and at the same time, your sense is that many people are not seeing that. Many other leaders have a blind spot there. So something that's really clear in front of you, and a lot of people are missing that. What might be something like that?
So I would say that transition between understanding yourself and working with others is a blind spot, which prevents even myself earlier in my career. You have to keep reminding yourself. You have to interact and be part of an organization and be helpful to that organization, right? And so it's not about yourself a lot of times. It's about the organization and how you can help move it forward, about your customers, once again, that I started out with. And so you have to go back to the basics and understand, why are you doing this, and enjoy the ride a little bit.
Yeah, that's interesting, right? You in the context of, or anyone in the context of the organization, because I think many tech leaders or technologists see themselves in connection with the tech challenge more than in connection with the other parts, with the other people in the organization.
Yeah, because your technology has a huge impact on organizations today. Everything is driven by, so really need to have somebody that understands both the business and the technology. And if you're not good at that, hire somebody that is, and go work with them.
Yeah. Good point. David, thank you so much. It's been awesome being with you and hearing your insights. Many things that will get stuck with me, like the mentoring, exposure to different parts of the organization, raising your hand if a challenge or an opportunity comes up for it, and the connection with the other people. Thank you so much for sharing that with us today.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
To everyone else out there, thank you for sharing us today. Join us again for the next Top Innovator series. And until then, keep your brain cells active.